You're 72 years old, Dad. Either get a job and pay rent, or I'm moving you to Sunrise Senior Living next week. Your choice. Those were my son Derek's exact words to me as I sat on the edge of the narrow cot in his garage, the one he'd converted into what he generously called my bedroom. He delivered this ultimatum the same way he delivered his marketing pitches. Smooth, confident, final. Like he'd rehearsed it in the mirror. His wife Melissa stood behind him, filming on her phone. For Instagram, probably. Another touching moment of them caring for their elderly father. I looked up at Derek, at this 40-year-old man I'd raised alone after his mother passed, and I smiled. Not a happy smile. The smile of someone who knows something you don't. The smile of someone who's been running a very long experiment, and the results just came in. I stood up slowly, feeling the familiar ache in my knees, and pulled out my phone. One text message. That's all it took. 20 minutes, I said quietly. Give me 20 minutes, and then you'll understand everything. Derek exchanged a confused glance with Melissa. What are you talking about? Just wait, I replied, walking past them toward the driveway. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I love hearing from folks all over the world. You're going to want to hear what happens next. Let me back up and explain how I ended up living in my son's garage in Palo Alto, California. My name is Robert Harrison. Most people called me Bob. For the past 18 months, I'd been residing in Derek's converted garage, sleeping on a cot, eating my meals separately from the family, and doing household chores in exchange for my keep. The neighbors probably thought Derek was a saint. Taking in his elderly father like that. Derek certainly encouraged that perception. He'd post photos on Instagram with captions like, "Family first, always," or "Blessed to care for Dad in his golden years." The reality was somewhat different. I woke each morning at 6, made breakfast for Derek, Melissa, and my 10-year-old granddaughter Sophie. Then I'd clean the kitchen, do the laundry, tend the garden, run errands. By evening, I'd retreat to my garage room while they had family dinner inside. I wasn't invited. Not anymore. It hadn't always been this way. 18 months ago, I'd been living comfortably in a small apartment in San Jose, managing my investments, spending time with Sophie. Then Derek called with an urgent request. Dad, we need your help. Melissa's influencer career is taking off. I'm launching a new consulting business, and we need someone to help with Sophie and the house. Could you move in with us? Just temporarily. Of course, I'd said yes. I'd do anything for my family. But temporary became permanent. Help became servitude. And gradually, Derek began treating me less like his father and more like unpaid staff. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I'd prepared lunch for Sophie, helped her with homework, and was teaching her some basic Python coding on my laptop when Derek burst in. Dad, what are you doing? Teaching Sophie to code, I replied. She's really talented. Stop filling her head with that tech nonsense, Derek snapped. She doesn't need to learn coding from someone who doesn't even understand smartphones. He'd grabbed my laptop and walked away with it. That hurt more than anything. Not because I needed the laptop, but because of what it represented. Derek truly believed I was just a confused old man who didn't understand technology. The irony was almost poetic. That night, I overheard Derek and Melissa talking in the kitchen. Their voices carried through the thin walls. We can't keep supporting him like this, Melissa said. He contributes nothing financially. He gets Social Security, doesn't he? Derek replied. Where does that money go? I have no idea. Probably loses it gambling online or something. Old people and the internet, you know. We need to monetize this better, Melissa continued. My caring for elderly parent content is getting good engagement, but we need a bigger story arc. What if we had to make the hard decision to move him to senior care? The journey, the tears, the difficult conversations. That's gold content. Brilliant, Derek agreed. We'll give him an ultimatum. Force the issue, film the whole thing. Which brought us to this morning. Derek's ultimatum. My smile, my phone call. And now, we wait. I stood in the driveway, watching the quiet street. Palo Alto on a Tuesday morning, joggers passing by, Teslas and Priuses lining the curbs, the smell of eucalyptus in the air. Derek and Melissa came out to join me, still confused. "Dad, what's going on?" Derek asked. "Who did you text?" "You'll see," I said simply. Melissa had her phone out, already recording. "This better not be some drama," she muttered. "Whatever you're planning, this is still our house, and you're still living here on our terms." That's when I heard it. The distinctive whir of an electric motor, growing steadily louder. Around the corner came a Tesla Model S, black as midnight, chrome gleaming in the California sunshine. It glided to a stop right in front of Derek's house, looking absurdly expensive against the backdrop of his modest suburban home. The driver's door opened, and Charles stepped out. I'd known Charles for 15 years. He was 58 now, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, silver hair neatly trimmed. He'd been managing my portfolio since 2009, back when it was worth $3 million. Now it was worth considerably more. "Mr. Harrison," Charles said with a slight nod. "Ready to go home?" Derek's mouth fell open. Melissa actually dropped her phone. "Who the hell is this?" Derek managed to sputter. "This is Charles," I said calmly. "My financial advisor." "You're what?" Charles walked around to open the passenger door for me. I pulled my single suitcase from the garage, the one I'd quietly packed last night. Everything I truly cared about fit in one bag. "Wait," Derek said, his voice rising. "Dad, what's happening? Where are you going?" "Home," I replied. "You said I needed to get a job or move out." "Well, I'm moving out, but you don't have anywhere to go." "Oh, I think you'll find that I do." Sophie came running out of the house, still in her pajamas. "Grandpa, where are you going?" I knelt down to her level. "Don't worry, sweetheart. You can visit me any time. In fact, I'm counting on it." Derek stepped forward, trying to block my path to the car. "This is ridiculous. You're 72 years old. You can't just—" "Excuse me, sir," Charles interjected smoothly, "but Mr. Harrison can do exactly what he wishes. Now, if you'll excuse us." I climbed into the Tesla's leather interior. Through the tinted window, I watched Derek's face cycle through confusion, anger, and something else. The first hint of fear. As Charles pulled away from the curb, Derek ran after us for a few steps, then stopped in the middle of the street. Melissa was frantically scrolling on her phone, probably trying to Google Charles's name or the license plate. Sophie waved goodbye, and I waved back. That little girl was the only thing I'd miss about living there. The Tesla glided through Palo Alto's quiet streets. Charles didn't say much. He knew I needed time to process. We drove west, away from Derek's neighborhood, through downtown, past Stanford University's sprawling campus, and into the hills. The views opened up, San Francisco Bay glittering in the distance, tech campuses dotting the landscape like temples to innovation. We turned onto a private road I knew well. At the end sat my actual home, a 3-story modern townhouse I'd purchased in 2012 for $2.3 million. It was worth $8 million now. The architecture was clean lines and massive windows, solar panels on the roof, a 2-car garage, a small garden with native California plants. Home, Charles pulled into the driveway. "Welcome back, sir. It's good to be back." Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. My real bedroom with the king-sized bed. My office with 3 monitors for tracking investments. My library with first edition tech books and signed biographies. My kitchen with proper equipment, not Derek's cheap college apartment leftovers. I'd spent 18 months living like a pauper to test my son's character. Now, I knew exactly what that character was worth. Charles set my suitcase down in the foyer. Shall I prepare the usual reports? Not yet. First, I need to make another call. I dialed Sophie's number. She answered on the second ring, whispering. "Grandpa? Hi, sweetheart. Are you allowed to talk? Dad and Mom are fighting. They're yelling about you," I figured. "Listen, can you do something for me? I'm recording this conversation on your laptop, the one your father took." "What? How? Remember when I taught you about cloud backup? Everything I do on that laptop automatically saves to my account, including the video files from the webcam. I've got 18 months of footage from inside your house." "Oh," Sophie breathed. "Grandpa, that's genius. I learned from the best," I said. You're going to be an amazing programmer someday. Can I still learn coding with you? Absolutely. In fact, I've got a whole setup here that'll blow your mind. But right now, I need you to do something important. What? If your dad or mom tries to do anything strange in the next few days, anything that makes you uncomfortable, I want you to tell me right away. Can you do that? Of course. Good girl. I love you, kiddo. Love you too, Grandpa. After we hung up, I sat in my office chair and let out a long breath. Charles appeared with coffee, the good stuff, not the instant powder Derek bought. Your son is calling, Charles observed. I can see that. 27 missed calls already. Impressive. Will you answer? Eventually. Let him marinate in his confusion for a bit. Charles smiled slightly. Cruel, perhaps, but I understand the sentiment. The truth was, I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to wake Derek up. For 18 months, I'd watched my son become someone I barely recognized. The sweet boy who'd cried at his mother's funeral had transformed into a man who treated his own father like a servant, who posted fake caring content online while serving real callousness at home, who believed elderly automatically meant incompetent. I needed him to face consequences, real ones. That afternoon, Derek showed up at my door. I watched him on the security camera, standing on my porch, pressing the doorbell repeatedly. Charles, I said through the intercom. You can let him in. Derek burst through the door the moment it opened. His eyes went wide as he took in the marble foyer, the curved staircase, the original artwork on the walls. Dad, what is this place? This is my home. Your home? But how? When? I bought it in 2012. You were living in Denver then, working for that startup that went under. I moved in here after selling my previous place in San Jose. Derek spun in a circle, trying to comprehend. But you lived with us for 18 months. In our garage. You didn't have money. You didn't have anything. I had everything, I corrected. I just wanted to see who you'd become. Whether you'd treat your father with respect, regardless of what you thought my financial situation was. Derek's face went through several expressions. Confusion gave way to anger. This was a test? You've been lying to me? I never lied. You made assumptions. You assumed I was poor. You assumed I was technologically illiterate. You assumed I had nothing to offer except cheap labor. Derek, when's the last time you asked me about my life? My past? What I did for a living? His mouth opened, then closed. Exactly. You never asked. Because you weren't interested. Charles appeared with a folder. Shall I show him? Please. Charles handed the folder to Derek. Inside were printouts of my investment portfolio. Stock holdings, real estate assets, startup investments. Derek's hands shook as he flipped through the pages. This says you're worth $50 million. Closer to 53, actually. Tech stocks have been performing well. But you worked as a janitor. That's what you told me. I did work as a janitor, back in the early 90s, at a little startup called Netscape. I was there during the browser wars, watching history being made. I invested every spare dollar into tech stocks. Then I moved to Yahoo, still in facilities management, still investing. Then Google, where I was lucky enough to get early stock options, even as support staff. I watched Derek process this, but you never said anything, because I wanted to see if you'd love me for who I was, not what I had. Your mother and I raised you to value character over wealth. When she died, and you went off to build your own life, I decided to keep my financial success private, to see if my son would be the kind of man who'd treat his father well regardless. And then you invited me to live with you, and I saw an opportunity. A final test. Derek sank into one of my leather chairs. You lived in my garage for 18 months as a test. I cleaned your house. I did your laundry. You treated me like a servant, and I let you, because I needed to know the truth. His face crumpled. I failed, didn't I? You didn't value me as your father, I said quietly. You valued me as free labor, and when even that became inconvenient, you tried to ship me off to senior care, while filming it for Instagram content. Derek put his face in his hands. Oh God. Melissa's idea about the content arc. Before Derek could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it, then at me. It's Melissa. She's been Googling you. Answer it, I said. He did, putting it on speaker. Derek, she said, her voice tight. Your father is on the Forbes list. He's a major investor in Uber, Airbnb, and like 20 other companies. There are articles about him in TechCrunch. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know, Derek said weakly. Well, we need to fix this. Immediately, get him to come back. Tell him we made a mistake. We can't lose access to that kind of money. And there it is, I said. Derek, do you hear what she's saying? Not, we're sorry for mistreating you. Not, we were wrong. Just we can't lose access to that money. Derek looked at me, then at the phone, then back at me. Melissa, I'll call you back. He hung up. The house fell quiet except for the hum of the smart home system. Dad, Derek said finally, I don't know what to say. Start with the truth. Do you actually care about me? Or do you just care about what I can do for you? He was quiet for a long moment. I thought I cared about you, but looking back at these past 18 months, the way I treated you, the things I said, he stopped, struggling. I became someone I don't recognize, someone Mom would be ashamed of. Your mother would be disappointed, I agreed, but she'd also believe in second chances. Derek, I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I'm telling you because you needed to see what you'd become. That night, I let Derek stay in one of my guest rooms. We talked for hours. About his mother, about the pressure he felt to succeed in Silicon Valley, about how Melissa's influence had gradually changed him, about how treating me poorly had somehow felt justified in his mind because he was providing me shelter. The next morning, Derek went home. I thought that might be the end of it. A lesson learned, some distance between us, maybe eventual reconciliation. But I underestimated how desperate Melissa was. 3 days later, I received legal papers. Derek and Melissa were filing for emergency conservatorship over me, claiming diminished mental capacity. The documents painted a picture of a confused elderly man who'd fallen victim to financial scammers, who was being manipulated by people pretending to be advisors, who was making erratic decisions and needed family protection. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, was both amused and outraged. Bob, this is absurd. You're one of the sharpest investors I know. Any judge will see through this immediately. I know, but we still need to take it seriously. Court was set for 2 weeks away. In that time, Derek called me repeatedly. I finally answered on day 5. Dad, this is Melissa's doing. I didn't want to file this. Then withdraw it. I can't. She says, if we don't try, we're idiots. She's already planning what we'll do with your money once we have conservatorship. Derek, you understand what you're attempting here. You're trying to legally declare me incompetent so you can control my assets. I know. God, I know. And I hate myself for it. But Melissa says, I don't care what Melissa says. I care what you believe. Do you actually think I'm mentally diminished? A pause. No. Then prove it. Come to court and tell the truth. I'll think about it, he said, and hung up. I wasn't confident he'd do the right thing. But I had a secret weapon. On day 7, Sophie called me. Grandpa, something weird is happening. Tell me. Mom's been coaching me. She wants me to tell the judge that you're confused, that you forget things, that you get angry easily. None of that's true. I know, sweetheart. But I'm scared. If I don't say what she wants, she'll be really mad. Sophie, I need you to be brave. Can you do that? What do you mean? There's going to be a court hearing. The judge might want to talk to you. If that happens, I need you to tell the absolute truth. Nothing but the truth. Okay? But what if Mom and Dad get in trouble? Sometimes people need to get in trouble to learn important lessons. Your dad got in trouble plenty when he was your age, and he turned out all right. Mostly all right anyway. Sophie laughed, then got serious. Grandpa, can I tell you something? Of course. I've been keeping evidence. What kind of evidence? You know how you taught me about cloud storage and backups? Well, I've been backing up stuff too. Mom and Dad's text messages. I set up a program to automatically save them. She paused. They've been planning this for a while. Planning to take your money. Sophie, I said carefully. That was very smart. And very brave. When we go to court, we'll need that evidence. Can you bring it? I can do better. I can present it. You know how you taught me to code? I made a whole presentation program with charts and everything. I had to sit down. My 10-year-old granddaughter had just become my star witness. The day of the hearing arrived. I wore a suit. Derek and Melissa wore matching outfits that screamed responsible children. Sophie sat in the back with Charles, her laptop bag beside her. Judge Patricia Morrison presided. She was in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The hearing began with Melissa's lawyer presenting their case. He painted me as a confused elderly man who'd fallen prey to financial predators, who was making erratic decisions, who needed family protection. Your Honor, the lawyer said, Mr. Harrison abandoned his family's home with no warning, moved into an expensive property he claims to own but likely doesn't, and is associating with individuals who may be taking advantage of his diminished state. Patricia Chen stood up. Your Honor, if I may, the court will hear from the respondent's counsel. Thank you. Your Honor, Mr. Harrison is not suffering from diminished capacity. He's a savvy investor who's been managing his own portfolio successfully for 30 years. His supposed erratic behavior was actually a carefully planned decision to leave a living situation where he was being mistreated. The judge looked at me. Mr. Harrison, you're welcome to address the court. I stood. Your Honor, I'm 72 years old. I have a graduate degree in computer science from Stanford, which I earned in 1976. I've worked in the tech industry for 40 years. I was an early investor in companies, including Google, Uber, Airbnb, and numerous others. My portfolio is currently worth approximately $53 million, managed by Charles Whitmore of Whitmore Financial, who is present in this courtroom today. I'm not confused. I'm not being scammed. I'm simply a father who spent 18 months living with his son to test his character. He failed that test. And now, rather than accept that failure, he's attempting to seize my assets through legal manipulation. The courtroom was silent. Melissa's face had gone pale. Derek was staring at the floor. The judge looked at Melissa's lawyer. Counsel, do you have evidence of diminished capacity? Medical records? Professional evaluations? He shuffled papers. We have testimony from family members who've observed erratic behavior. Hearsay, Patricia Chen said. Do you have anything concrete? That's when Sophie stood up. Excuse me, Your Honor? The judge looked surprised. Young lady, who are you? I'm Sophie Harrison, Derek and Melissa's daughter, Robert Harrison's granddaughter, and I have evidence. The judge gestured. Approach. Sophie walked forward with her laptop. Behind her, Charles set up a portable projector. Within minutes, Sophie had connected her computer to the courtroom's display system. What happened next was remarkable. My 10-year-old granddaughter presented a PowerPoint that would have impressed any tech company. She showed text messages between Derek and Melissa, discussing plans to gain conservatorship and control my assets. She showed Instagram posts with fake captions about caring for me, contrasted with texts complaining about me being a burden. She showed Melissa's messages to Derek about monetizing the elder care content. And then Sophie showed something even more devastating. Using code I'd taught her, she'd created a program that tracked financial searches on the family computer. It showed hundreds of searches for my name, for Whitmore Financial, for how to break trusts, for conservatorship laws, all dated after Derek discovered my real address. Your Honor, Sophie said, her voice clear, my mom and dad want you to think Grandpa is confused. But he's not. He taught me to code in Python. He helped me with my math homework. He told me stories about working at Google and Yahoo. He's the smartest person I know. She turned to look at her parents, and they treated him like garbage. The judge leaned forward. Young lady, that's quite a presentation. Who taught you to do all this? My grandpa, Sophie said proudly. He said that knowing how to code means you can find the truth, because data doesn't lie. Judge Morrison looked at Derek and Melissa. Their lawyer had no response. Your Honor, Patricia Chen said quietly, I believe the evidence speaks for itself. After a 30-minute recess, Judge Morrison delivered her ruling. This court finds no evidence whatsoever of diminished capacity. Mr. Robert Harrison is clearly competent, articulate, and financially savvy. The petition for conservatorship is denied. Furthermore, the court is deeply troubled by the evidence presented by Miss Sophie Harrison. It appears this filing was motivated not by genuine concern for Mr. Harrison's welfare, but by financial greed. The judge looked directly at Derek and Melissa. This court will be referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential investigation into elder financial abuse. Just because the attempt failed doesn't mean a crime wasn't committed. Melissa gasped. Derek closed his eyes. Bailiff, Judge Morrison continued, please ensure Mr. and Mrs. Harrison understand they are not to contact Mr. Robert Harrison except through counsel unless he initiates contact. This includes social media, email, phone calls, or physical visits. Violation will result in contempt charges. The gavel fell. I turned to Sophie, who'd made her way back to my side. She looked up at me with worried eyes. Did I do okay, Grandpa? You did perfect, sweetheart. Absolutely perfect. That evening, Charles drove Sophie and me back to my townhouse. She was quiet in the back seat, processing everything. As we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke. Grandpa, what's going to happen to Mom and Dad? I don't know, honey. That depends on them. Are you mad at me for showing the evidence? I could never be mad at you for telling the truth. You were incredibly brave today. She was quiet for another moment. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you go live with them if you didn't have to? Because I wanted to give your dad a chance to be the person I raised him to be. I wanted to believe that deep down, he was still that good man. But he wasn't. Not anymore. Maybe not anymore, I agreed. But people can change, if they want to. We went inside. I showed Sophie my office, with its multiple monitors and coding setup. Her eyes went wide. This is amazing. Want to work on a project together? Really? Really. We're going to build something cool. For the next 2 months, I didn't hear from Derek. The district attorney declined to press charges, deciding that the conservatorship attempt, while ethically questionable, didn't quite meet the threshold for criminal elder abuse. Melissa filed for divorce 6 weeks after the hearing. Apparently, the humiliation of being exposed in court, combined with losing access to my fortune, was too much for their marriage to survive. Sophie visited every weekend. We coded together, explored San Francisco, talked about her future. She told me Derek was in therapy, that he'd moved into a smaller apartment, that he seemed sad all the time. On a Saturday in December, my doorbell rang. I checked the camera. Derek stood on the porch, holding a wrapped present. I opened the door. Hi, Dad. Hello, Derek. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He entered slowly, looking around like he was seeing the place for the first time. In a way, he was. Last time he'd been here, he'd been angry and defensive. Now he just looked tired. I've been going to therapy, he said, 3 times a week, working through a lot of things. That's good. Melissa and I are getting divorced. I heard. Turns out, when you marry someone for the wrong reasons, it doesn't last. He set the present on my coffee table. This is for you. Early Christmas present. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a framed photo. It showed Derek as a young boy, maybe 8 years old, sitting on my shoulders. His mother was beside us, laughing. We were at a park somewhere, golden hour sunlight, pure happiness captured in a moment. I remember this day, I said quietly. Mom had just finished her master's degree. We went to celebrate. You put me on your shoulders and ran around until I was dizzy. Derek sat down, uninvited, and put his face in his hands. I'm so sorry, Dad, for everything, for how I treated you, for the conservatorship attempt, for becoming someone Mom would hate, for forgetting who you raised me to be. I sat down across from him. Why did you forget? He looked up, eyes red. Somewhere along the way, I started measuring my worth by my bank account, by my success compared to everyone else in Silicon Valley, by Instagram likes and networking events, and whether I was important enough. And you weren't rich, so I decided you weren't important. The logic was insane, but I believed it. Derek wiped his eyes. When I saw your portfolio that first day, My immediate thought wasn't pride in what you'd accomplished. It was anger that you'd hidden it from me, like you owed me access to your success. Do you understand now why I hid it? Because you wanted to know if I'd love you without it. And I didn't. I treated you like a servant, worse than a servant. His voice broke. I treated my own father, the man who raised me alone after Mom died, who worked 3 jobs to put me through college, who never missed a single one of my baseball games, like he was worthless. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, the California sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Finally, I spoke. Derek, I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because I needed you to see the truth. Not just about me, but about yourself. About the kind of man you'd become. I know. Can you ever forgive me? That depends. On what? On whether you're actually willing to change. Not just say you will, but actually do the work. I've spent the last 2 months working day labor jobs, Derek said. Construction, warehouse work, whatever I can get. Making minimum wage. Living in a studio apartment, learning what it actually means to struggle. Therapy's been brutal. Facing what I did to you, what I became. But I'm doing it. Because I want to be the man you raised me to be. The man Mom would be proud of. I looked at my son, really looked at him. He'd lost weight. There were new lines around his eyes. But there was also something else. Something I hadn't seen in years. Honesty, humility, the beginnings of genuine character. We're going to rebuild trust slowly, I said. You're going to have to earn it back. I understand. And you're going to have to prove, over time, that this change is real. I will. I promise. Over the next 6 months, Derek did exactly that. He kept working his labor jobs, kept going to therapy, kept showing up as a better version of himself. We started having dinner once a week, then twice a week. Sophie was thrilled to have her dad back, the real version of him. By summer, Derek had started a new business, but this time, it was different. Instead of chasing quick money and Instagram fame, he was doing consulting work to help small businesses, teaching them marketing skills, charging fair prices, building relationships. One evening in July, he showed up at my door with takeout. Can we talk? Of course. We ate on my patio, watching the sunset. Dad, he said finally, I want to ask you something, but I need you to know it's not about money. All right. Would you consider investing in my business? Not giving me money, but actually investing. As a business partner, with contracts and everything professional, why should I? Because I think we could do something good together. I've got clients who need help. You've got decades of business wisdom. We could build something that actually matters. Help people who are struggling like I was. I studied him. This was a test of a different sort. Derek, if I invest, I'm going to be a real partner. That means I get a say in decisions. It means I hold you accountable. It means we do this the right way, with ethics and integrity. I wouldn't want it any other way. We shook hands across the table. And that's how, at 73 years old, I became a business partner with my son. Not because he demanded access to my money, but because he'd earned back my trust. Sophie's 11 now. She's already coding better than most high school students. Derek's business is growing steadily, helping dozens of small companies. We work together 3 days a week. Melissa's gone, moved to Los Angeles to chase influencer dreams elsewhere. But Derek's dating someone new, a teacher named Rachel who loves him for who he is, not what he has. Last Sunday, we all had dinner together at my house. Derek, Rachel, Sophie, and Charles, who's become like family. Sophie was showing Rachel her latest coding project. Derek was helping me prep dinner. And I thought about how close we'd come to losing all of this. How 18 months in a garage had saved my relationship with my son. Because sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what matters. Sometimes you have to hit bottom to remember how to climb. Sometimes you have to be tested to discover your true character. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get a second chance to get it right. Before I finish this story, I want to ask you something. What makes a real family? Is it blood? Is it obligation? Or is it love, respect, and choosing to show up for each other when times get tough? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This isn't just my story. It's a reminder that we all face choices about how we treat the people we love, whether we value them for who they are or for what they can give us, whether we see their worth or just their usefulness. God has a way of revealing truth when we need it most. When Derek demanded I get a job or move out, I thought my family was broken beyond repair. But looking back now, I see that moment was actually a gift. It forced everything into the open. It made Derek face what he'd become. It gave me the information I needed. And ultimately, it gave us a chance to rebuild on a foundation of honesty instead of assumptions. Throughout my 73 years, I've learned that real wealth isn't measured in stock portfolios or real estate holdings. It's measured in relationships built on genuine love and respect. In grandchildren who know they're valued for who they are, not what they might inherit. In sons who've learned that character matters more than comfort. The tech industry taught me how to build financial success. But life taught me that success without family is hollow. That all the money in the world can't replace the feeling of your son genuinely apologizing. That your granddaughter's pride in learning to code is worth more than any investment return. These days, when people ask me for advice about family or money or success, I tell them this: test people with nothing, and you'll learn everything. I pretended to be poor to see if my son would love me anyway. He failed that test. But in failing, he learned, he changed, he grew, and now our relationship is stronger than it ever was, because it's built on truth. The truth is, you can't buy love. You can't buy respect. You can't buy character. You can only earn those things by being worthy of them. And you can only know if you're truly loved by stripping away everything else and seeing what remains. I spent 18 months in a garage to answer one question. Did my son love me, or just what I could give him? The answer was painful, but it was also necessary, because only by knowing the truth could we begin to build something real. So here's what I want you to take away from this story. Don't assume the people you love will always be there. Don't take them for granted. Don't measure their worth by what they contribute financially. Value them for who they are. Treat them with dignity. Ask about their lives. Listen to their stories. Because someday, you might discover that the person you dismissed as irrelevant was actually extraordinary. And by then, you might have lost your chance. Derek almost lost his chance. But God gave him grace. He gave him a wake-up call in the form of a Tesla pulling up to his curb. He gave him a father patient enough to test him and loving enough to give him another chance when he failed. Not everyone gets that opportunity. So if there's someone in your life you've been taking for granted, someone you've been underestimating, someone you've been treating as less than they deserve, maybe today's the day you change that. Maybe today's the day you see them clearly. Before it's too late, thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about family values and the lessons we learn when we're tested. And remember, at the end of your life, you won't be measured by your bank account. You'll be measured by the love you gave, the respect you showed, and the character you built. Make sure you're building something worth leaving behind.